This is our monthly craft along challenge for the month of May 2026. We will be doing an accordion book and master board and honoring the life of a woman in your life. It's the Threads of Her Life challenge, and I hope that you decide to craft along with me. You can download the entire graphics pack in the link below. And I look forward to seeing what you guys create. I've been creating monthly challenges for the Junk Journal Club that I'm a part of here in Kansas City. For the month of May, I thought I would share with all of you exactly what it is that we're doing. I think March we did a bingo. April we did a scavenger hunt. For the month of May, I'm issuing a challenge to actually create a master board that we will then create an accordion journal with and decorate during our club. But I thought I would share with all of you exactly how to put together the master board in case you've never done one. The challenge for May is Threads of Her Life. Again, May is generally Mother's Day. Not everybody has a mother. I don't anymore. She passed away quite a while ago. I thought it would be really cool if we chose a woman that we admire. It could be a relative, it could be a friend, it could be any woman in history that you admire, and tell her story through layers, texture, and meaning. What better personifies women than women's fashion? And so I took this in that direction. It's a life is not a straight seam. It's stitched together over time. I have an entire printable available for download at JunkJournal.AI in case you want to follow along as well. It includes all the graphics that you'll need for today, as well as a bunch of additional stickers and pockets and things that you can print out on your own. Essentially, the first part of this is actually a worksheet that you could fill out and actually put in your journal. It includes things like information on her story prompt. So what did she create or build? What challenges did she have to mend? What pieces of her life feel unfinished or evolving? Dress her story. If her life was an outfit, what would the fabric represent? What colors would symbolize certain things in her life? What is the stitching telling us? There's recommendations to include things like texture elements, fabric, lace, sewing patterns, buttons, handwritten elements, anything imperfect or torn or hidden flaps, even quote strips and vintage family inspired elements and items. We are going to create a master board, and as part of that master board, then we will decorate the master board to personify her life. So the first page is really just the worksheet that kind of explains the process and for you to start kind of mapping out your plan. The second page of the packet is Threads of Her Life instruction sheet. This is all about how to actually build the master board, which is what I'm going to demonstrate today. So we're going to end up using the master board to create an accordion book, which should be a lot of fun. And then I've also included a bunch of dressmaker mannequins for you to be able to cut out and put in your accordion book, and then create an outfit to go with each one. So there's 6 of those, as well as a bunch of tags and information. And then I included an entire sheet that has little dressmaker dummies, as well as pockets and things, little things that could be cut out and added, including a Threads of Her Life sign that you can put on the front of your journal. So let's get started. As I mentioned, there is an instruction sheet on how to create a master board, including all of the dimensions and everything that you'll need to create your own. So essentially what we're doing is it's a 6-panel master board, or a 6-panel accordion book, and we need a master board that's approximately 12 inches by 24 inches to get started. So this could be anything. I purposely designed this so you could use any kind of paper, including like the scrappy Amazon brown paper that you get in all Amazon packages. So your base paper could be anything. You want it to be sturdy paper, but not so thick that it can't be folded. And bear in mind, as we build the master board, you'll have a bunch of layers. So you want something that's relatively easy. I was going through my stash, and instead of using the Amazon paper, which is what I was going to originally use, I found a roll of wrapping paper. And so I will be using that because I pulled it off and realized it at the end of the roll. And it just so happens to be 12 inches wide, which is very fortuitous. It is a little wrinkled on the end, but that won't matter because you're going to glue a bunch of stuff on top of that. So you need it to be 12 inches this way and then 24 inches this way at the very least. Now, if you want your accordion book to be bigger than that, you absolutely can do any width that you want. Essentially what we're going to do is fold this in half, and then so that you have the design on both sides of the accordion book. And then we're going to end up folding every 6 inches, but you can definitely do whatever size masterboard that you want. The finished size of the masterboard will end up being 4 inches wide by 6 inches tall. So it's going to be a little one, nothing huge. And I believe my paper is way longer than 24 inches it is. Okay, so I know that mine's longer than 24 inches, so we should be fine. So essentially what we're going to be doing is creating a collage of paper. So this is a very similar thing that I've been doing in a trash journal. Essentially, we're going to be taking all kinds of bits and pieces and paper and things that maybe are meaningful, colors that make sense, and we're going to be collaging them onto the paper to create a masterboard. So this is just the same concept, but in a trash journal where I was laying down backgrounds for everything. So same basic concept, only in a larger format. Okay, in smaller format. I'm going to throw down some paper underneath here so that way as I'm gluing, there's a huge mess everywhere. You're going to need a few things. I prefer Liquitex matte medium when I'm doing this. You can use Mod Podge, you could even use glue that's watered down, but you want to be able to make it liquidy enough that you can brush it on. And I just use these little foam brushes because then I can throw them away. It gets a little messy, so make sure that you lay something down on your surface because we're going to be gluing a whole bunch of things down to this, and it will be super exciting here in a minute. The other thing that you want to do is gather a whole bunch of things that you could cut up. I usually go through my scrap bin, and for mine on the background, I'm going to keep things relatively neutral, and then my pops of color will be blue because that was my mother's favorite color. And so I will probably add in some things like tissue paper. So that is another great addition. So tissue paper in a variety of colors. I happen to have some blue tissue paper, so I will probably be incorporating that into my design. Keep the background neutral because then we're going to add additional layers of pops of color with pieces of fabric and stamps and other things after everything dries. So I try to usually keep my background of my my masterboard pretty neutral. This is also a great way to use up all of your scraps. Let me see if I can dig out. Here's another example of what the masterboard would ultimately look like at the end. This obviously isn't very neutral because I a lot of times will make one of these at the very end of like a project to use up all of the extra pieces. And this was all of the extra pieces left over after I did my Bride of Frankenstein last fall. And so essentially then this masterboard could be cut up. I did this on a harder sheet of paper because I can now cut this up and make this into tags and a variety of other things to go in journals. So that's essentially what a masterboard looks like. It's just a bunch of pieces of, a variety of leftover pieces of things, and it's a great way to use up your scraps. So if you've got a scrap bin, this is definitely a way to make that stuff usable. Okay, let's get started. Do one piece of this. Just need one sheet. And because this is sewing themed, I am going to use pattern pieces, which is a great way to use up old patterns that maybe aren't being utilized. This is just one that happens to came in the mail with a bunch of other ones that were fashion related. And I just cut these up. As I mentioned, the matte medium is going to get brushed on. I end up making a giant mess, and I hate matte medium all over my fingers. So I am going to put on gloves for this because it drives me nutty having sticky fingers. So I usually just go through here and start I think I want for mine just like an all over pattern. I like this has the dots on it, so that'll be fun. So essentially you're just going to come in here and start paint on your glue or matte medium or Mod Podge, right? And then start sticking your stuff to it. The wrinklier, there's no rhyme or no exact magic to this. Obviously, if you want to stick with a grid or whatever, in your design, you can, but it's not necessary. I'm going to use this colored stuff last. And I'm just going to use a bunch of book page and other stuff that I have and start sticking it down. Because again, this first layer that you're putting on is really just background, right? You do want a bit of a straight edge, so make sure that you have a really good straight edge on either side, because that will become important, because we're going to essentially fold this in half and then accordion fold it. So in your first couple of things that you do, don't make this too thick, because it'll get kind of chunky over time and become difficult to fold later. So I'm just using a bunch of book page and variety of things that I have on hand that I'm basically just building a layered collage of a variety of things. And I have some old ledger paper pages. This might be a fun way to, if you have like a letter from the person, I could dig through my stash and see if I have any writing. If you have a letter from the person, I would photocopy it. I wouldn't use the actual original. But if you have a letter or anything where that person's handwriting, if you're using a person you know, that would be kind of fun to add that in here as well. So it's okay if your stuff hangs off the edge. We can go back and trim that off later before we get completely finished, or at the end, and trim everything up. So if you run off the edge or whatever the case may be, actually is not an issue at all. I try to make sure that I put sturdier paper and like around the edges. It just helps in general to reinforce the edges as things go on. This is again why I prefer to wear gloves, because it helps to be able to like get in here and really shove that paper down into and make sure that everything comes in full contact with your glue paper here. My sheet is actually wider than 2 feet. I didn't, or 24 inches, I didn't bother to cut it down. So it's the full width of the roll. I'll just cut off the extra that I don't need later. I don't generally pay attention to which direction the letters or the words are going, because again, the idea is this is just a background. So if you're using old book page or whatever, it really doesn't matter. I mean, you could cut this into little teeny tiny squares like I did on this other masterboard. Took the time on this masterboard, I took the time to cut everything into squares and kind of do it in a grid-like pattern, versus now on this one, I'm doing an all over. Again, the idea is that this particular masterboard is going to be a background, so you're not really going to pay close attention to much of what is here, because it really just is hopefully fade into the background behind the graphics that you're going to put into your book at the end. Since we're doing a project where we're making dresses, I thought the dress patterns would be super cute in here. So it's just, don't be afraid to layer. Don't be precious about any of what you have here, because again, you're not going to see most of this at the time it's all said and done, and we get a bunch of stuff stuck on top of it. So the dress forms and whatnot, and the final design goes right over the top of all of this. So I wouldn't put anything on this layer that you want to make sure that shows up essentially. So just bear that in mind. Anything that falls off over the top, over the edge, like I mentioned, we can just cut off. Not a big deal. This will dry and definitely it's going to feel very flimsy right now, but once it dries, it'll definitely feel like it holds up better. Coverage. At this point, when you're happy, if you want to start adding in the tissue paper elements, things of that nature with the color, you absolutely can. So again, I'm using blue as my color element. I'm going to start throwing in some of that as well. I love the fact that the tissue paper almost becomes see-through. So all of the text and things in the background start to show through. I was a big fan of blue, so that's why I'm using here. That's really starting to come together. I want a little bit of this blue to fall on every page. So if you assume 4 inches, 4 inches, you know what I mean? And this will be the front and the back, you know what I mean? So like, because you're going to fold it. So this will be fun. I'm going to throw in series. There's no such thing as perfect in this process. It is meant to be messy. It is meant to use up things that you have. So don't get in your head about, trying to make it super perfect, because it doesn't need to be. I took a bunch of book page and I ran it through embossing folders, and it's, the book page is kind of old and brittle, and the embossing folders, it kind of tore, which is kind of fun and adds another element of texture to the whole thing. Here's a smaller chunk of this. If you've got washi tape, you can also layer in chunks of washi tape at this point. So you can stick it down with. The other thing that you can start to add in at this point is bits of lace, if you've got them. I think this is a really beautiful chunk of lace. I don't know that I'm going to add lace, but this would be a great place to start adding in some additional textural elements. I think I'm going to save the lace personally for later. Anything else I want to add in here? I know that this is going to be probably my front cover somewhere on there. I want to make sure that that doesn't, because my mother died in 98. So, I mean, you can start to think through, okay, what do I want to make sure shows up in some way, shape, or form at this point? Because now we're getting into the base layer is done, and now we can add in a variety of other things. This would be a great place to start adding in, little things that you have playing around that maybe you could stick down. I'm not going to dig through here too far because my hands are gross. But anything like this, stuff that you want to start layering in, words. You want to start layering in words at this point. Well, of course, stamp over the top and stuff like that. So, or you could just do this and call it a day. I'm likely going to go over this with some stamps after it dries to finish out my design. But this is a great start and a great, overall design for the base layer. So just go through before you're kind of take your gloves off and finish, and just make sure everything is really good and stuck down. Go over it again with any extra layer of glue that you might have, and just make sure that you've got all the edges are good and adhered. It'll help you in the long run to do this tedious process, but because once we start folding it, things start like popping up, and so you have to glue things back down. So you just do it now, make sure everything's real good and coated with the Mod Podge or matte medium, especially all the edges and anywhere where it, something might pop up later. It's okay if they're crinkly. It's okay if stuff gets crinkly or, whatnot. That adds to the coolness of the whole thing. Something else you can do at this point when it's kind of drying is go in with some distress sprays. It will unify the overall theme here. I actually already started on this. It's, wet and the glue is on here and whatnot. I come in with distress spray. I sprayed it with some white, which kind of mutes everything down a little bit. This is I just mix up acrylic paint with some water. You don't have to have anything expensive as far as distress sprays, all the really expensive ones. And then I want to bring in like some gold, like I have like a metallic gold, just to give it a little bit of glittery effect. This will be very subtle. You probably won't be able to see it on camera. Just kind of give it a little bit of sparkle. And also kind of unify the whole thing. So you can use any color. Again, if you want to add in the color that you had here, this will just give a little bit of gold, gives it just a little bit of a shimmer. This is also, make sure you're not stuck down to your paper. But yeah, I'm going to leave this here to dry because it's very wet at this point with all the glue and now the distress spray that's gone on top. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we need to add at this point. No, you don't want to stamp or anything else at this point because we will add that in later. Karen Dosh makes these watercolor crayons, and you could add little bits of things in at this point if you wanted to, just to kind of give you a little bit more interest again while it's wet, especially if you're wanting to introduce, you know, some color or whatnot, just to give it a little bit of extra something in there. Which looks really pretty. I wasn't going to do this, but now that I'm looking at it, it's kind of cool. Watercolor crayons will kind of run a little bit. You can kind of go in here and add a little bit of emphasis to some things, which is kind of fun. Really good. Just add a little bit of visual interest. Just the shapes. Again, helps to bring out, you don't have to do this stuff at all if you don't have the watercolor crayons. It's not the end of the world. I don't think, right, you could come in here with a little watercolor. Again, I still have the glue is not dried, and I have all this, just the spray on here. So that's why this works at this point. Maybe where you could use a little extra color. I think this is going to blend in really great with the gold I have on here. At least I suspect that will be the case as it dries. It's a cool kind of shadowing effect to some of my pieces here. Okay, I think we're gonna call it fun times. Okay. All right, let me clean up and we will wait for this to dry. Okay, now that my masterboard, the first layer is all dry, now you can go in and add other embellishment. So this is the point at which I like to add stamps and, you know, writing and all of those things after everything is dry and it can accept new layers. Everything looks great. This kind of, you know, the blue that was on there faded a little bit. So I want to go in and add one of the, you know, things that, again, because this is, you know, the threads of her. So my mom was really into birds. And so I am going to include a bunch of stamps of birds. Again, going in that same kind of color scheme, because again, this will be layered further when we add on after we put the accordion book together. So this is still stuff that's really in the background. And so I am going to grab some bird stamps that I have. I don't know even where I got these, probably Amazon or Temu or something. Anyway, so I can't tell you which ones I'm using, but everybody, you know, variety of stamps and things like that. I'm going to use a couple of distress oxides, chipped sapphire and vintage photo. I thought about getting out my foam stamps and doing paint stamps, but I figured that might be, well, it's going to be too messy, but probably too heavy. But you absolutely could at this point if you want to do some additional stamping. But essentially, I'm just going to come in here and find some areas where I can add in a few little stamps of a variety of things. So there's a bird, and I will probably make sure that as you're putting them on, you're also layering, because this side will be upright and then that side, because again, we're folding it in half. So keep that in mind as you're doing this, that anything you put on this side would be upside down, essentially. So if you want your birds to all be, you know, right side up, you're going to want to make sure that you turn them around so that they are upright. So that's super cute. At this point, you could even add additional washi and things like that if you wanted to. There's a cute little spot right over here. It's adorable. You know, go off the edge. Some of your stamps even just kind of trying to strategically add in more color in a variety of places. Do one more of these. I'm going to do one right here on the edge. Great. So I'm going to switch up colors. And we'll add in some of the brown distress oxide. Maybe we'll do some of the butterflies. I'm just using its vintage photo, so it's picking up the same color brown as the brown and like the patterns and things like that. So, which is really pretty. At this point, you can't have too much. I mean, because again, this is all background. So fill in as much as you want. Keep adding to, layering on top of all of that. And then I think I'm going to call it done at this point. So essentially we're going to let this dry again. And then we'll move on to the next part, which is folding. Trimming everything up and getting ready to start folding in the book together. Okay, the next part in this entire process, this is all dry and good to go. It's never going to be completely flat, so just bear that in mind. I have never figured out a way to get these completely and totally flat. I'm sure if you press them under weight for a while. We are going to flip it over to the back, and it's a little easier to see. But we have all of these edge areas that need to be kind of trimmed off, so we're going to do that first. And then we'll get to figuring out how to fold this in the way that is most beneficial. So I'm just going to come in through here with some scissors and just trim off and clean up all the little edges and anything that kind of laps over the edge. Now I left my length of paper the full width of the roll, because this was this backer paper was wrapping paper, so I left it the full length. I don't need the full width of the paper. I only need 12 inches wide by 24 inches long. So we need to take a look at the front of the graphic and figure out where we want to cut this off at. So I did want this, and so I'm going to cut from this edge and find my 24 inches. Use a black marker so you can see what I'm doing here. My ruler is exactly 24 inches, so I'm going to line this up, mark off. Okay, so I'm going to chop off this chunk on the end that I don't need, and I can use this chunk for other things, because now this is a masterboard that I can make belly bands, I can make pockets for other, or even use it within my book that I'm building. So we'll set that aside. Okay, so now in the instructions, it goes over in the instructions exactly kind of how you have to cut it, or how you're going to fold. So essentially we're going to fold this in half along the red dotted line, and then every 6 inches we're going to do an accordion fold. So valley, mountain valley type deal. And it shows an example of what that looks like, the accordion, if that is confusing. So the first thing we want to do is fold this in half lengthwise. So we're going to find, it's 12 inches wide. So I'm going to line that up as best I possibly can and find my 6. Okay. And I'm going to draw a line down the center where my first fold is going to be. Okay, so this is where your first fold is going to be, a long ways. A great thing to do at this point is to come through here and use a bone folder and give it a good score. Now, this long side is way too long to use a regular scoring board because nobody has a scoring board that's this long. A couple things that you can do. If you have one of these, like, you just need something thick. So if you have like a neoprene mouse pad, that works out great. And we're going to come and just give it a good score on the line. So I'm going to come through here and use my bone folder, and I just want to score it. The reason the neoprene works out great underneath is it's squishy, and so that will give your it'll push in and give you just enough. You can also do that with like a piece of foam or even a piece of like thicker cardboard because it usually has a little bit of squish to it. I'm just going through here and kind of giving it a score because this will help, essentially will help me when we go to fold. So I'm just coming through here and I'm pre-scoring it. I find that my mouse pad works out really, really great for this. I've found a bunch of uses for the mouse pad. It works great too. You need to stab something through paper, put the mouse pad underneath. Okay, you want to be real careful though that you don't stab all the way through your paper like I just did. It should be okay. It's not shouldn't affect it too bad if you do, but just be gentle. I find I get too aggressive with the bone folder sometimes. So, okay, so that is scored, and that's going to help us make that fold a lot easier. So pre-scoring that definitely helps. Now, then once you have it scored, just come through here and burnish this down, but be real gentle because you got a lot of layers here that are potentially could come up if you score too hard or burnish too hard across here. So just we want this edge though to be really crisp. If you use super thick paper for your backer paper, this might be super challenging. So that's where I would be real careful. I would be the thickness of a thicker wrapping paper, or even the brown paper that comes in the Amazon packages. It works great for that backer paper. Nothing too thin because you really do want this to stand up and hold up long term. So you do want a thicker paper, like tissue paper wouldn't probably work unless you have a lot of layers. I mean, I guess it could, but we do eventually want this to be able to basically stand up. Okay, so we've gone through here. Now the other thing you want to do is just check and make sure that now that we folded everything over, everything is good to go and you don't have any major issues. We're going to wait and glue this to itself, essentially gluing that to itself until after we've kind of figured out all of our other folds as well. The reason we're going to wait and do that is because we want to be able to add a tie in here inside the sandwich. So I'm going to wait and do that after I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to do. Now, every 4 inches, you're going to score. So we have 6 panels essentially. So every 4 inches, I'm going to score, and I'm going to score, where's my front at? That's going to be, okay, lining this up and scoring it off, and then I'm going to score this. And I'm going to get that a good score without cutting through everything. I like this. This actually is a bone folder, but it's made out of metal, and it holds up so much easier than the ones that are those plastic ones. I find the plastic ones, eventually the little tip gets bad. I found this. It's actually a leather maker's tool. It's the same thing as a bone folder. Okay, so we've scored that. Oh, where's our score at? There's our score. This is where it's going to get a little interesting because you got 2 layers to go through that you kind of have to figure out where is your score line, right? So we want to be able to really get in there because that is super thick now. You might also try scoring it on the other side just to be on the safe side, because like mine is not wanting to fold. It helps if you have that all the way under there. You could use the scoreboard at this point too, if it's you can get that thicker layer of stuff under there. Okay, so essentially now I have the ability to fold that back and forth, whereas before I had to score both sides. Okay, so I want this to be good and crisp, a good and crisp line. So again, I'm going to take my time and really go through here and push this down and make this as crisp as humanly possible. It's thick at this point because you got 4 layers, right, that you're kind of having to fold. So just do it without like ruining your board. You might flip it over and do it on both sides just to give it good. Okay, now because this one folded this way, the next one's going to fold this way. So again, we're doing that kind of accordion deal. So in another 4 inches from the first fold, and anything that's coming up like this looks like it's starting to come up, we can glue that back down afterwards. Okay, so I'm going to go to that line. I'm going to line it up. I'm going to do another score. Another score. I'm not marking this with a pencil, but you could mark it with a pencil if you don't have the ability to score that line. Again, we're going to come here, find our line up, everything. Make sure we're square, and we'll score this side too. Okay, so this side, this one this way, so this is going to go that way. Again, creating that accordion. And we can trim, as long as your straight edge is good, this bottom edge, we can always trim that and make it look a little bit neater after we get everything done, if it's not completely ending up. Mine's not. Once we glue it all, we can go through here and just give it a quick trim. So again, I'm going to burnish that down. Burnish it down on the other side. We're good to go. That's a good crisp fold. So again, we've got this way, then that way, and then the next way is going to go backwards. Okay, so again, 4 inches from the line, square it up, give us a good score. Flip her over, line it up again, give us another good score. Okay, now we're going to, okay, so this one this way, this one this way, so then this one's got to go this way. And I want to just watch that your top edge is as square as humanly possible, because you don't want your book to get all wonky. If it's a little wonky, it's fine. We'll come through here and burnish this down. Flip it over and burnish it on the other side. Get really nice, crisp and edge as I can with all that. Okay, so now we have 1, 2, 3, and then this one's going to have to go back this way. Okay, so again, it's every other, right? So let's open that back up, find our 4 inches, line her up, move my neoprene around here. Oh, a little off kilter here with my, okay, that's scored on that side. Let's line it up and score on this side. Okay. Again, if you don't have a mouse pad, the neoprene mouse pad, you can absolutely use a cardboard box. You could use your scorer if it's thick enough. So sometimes this, like multiple layers of paper, are a little difficult to get into the scoreboard. Okay, so if we this way, so then this has got to go backwards. Okay, so we're just going to make sure, again, we're lining our edge up as much as possible. Okay, we're going to burnish this one down. Just trying to get that nice, really tight edge. Put it over on this side. That. Okay, so now the final one is another 4 inches from the edge. So you should have 8 inches. You should have 8 inches at this point, which we do. We're almost right on the money. So if you're a little off, you have a little too much, it's really okay. It's not the end of the world. If you have too much, you can always trim it off a little bit. If you have not enough, it's really not the end of the world, right? It may be a little off. Mine, I think, is by the time it's all said and done, it's going to be a hair too short, the last one, but it won't matter. You won't notice when it's all put together. Okay, that way. And grab my 4 inches from this side. Line it up and make sure it's all straight. Not cattywampus. Okay, so this folded this way, this folded this way, and this one needs to fold that way. And again, if you've done it well, everything should line up. Mine's a little off. It's not going to be the end of the world. Like I said, this is a handmade book. If it's a little off kilter, if it's, as long as you've lined everything up straight, it should be pretty darn close to on point with, if it's a little off, it's really not the end of the world. This is a handmade thing that no one's going to see except you. You might give it as a gift. I don't know what you're intending with it, but anyway, so there's our book. And like I said, mine's a little short on the back, but that won't matter. It's also a little off kilter. Like I said, it's not perfect. The top edge, of course, is the folded edge, so you don't want to cut that. This is made to be able to stand up on a table or, whatever, a display type deal. And so it's purposely made that way. That's the point of the accordion book. And also, you can decorate both sides. So I can now decorate this side, and I can then flip it over, and I have more decoration space on the other side. So you have essentially 12 panels that now you can decorate with your stuff. So again, I didn't glue any of this shut at this point, because at this point I want to go ahead and insert, before I glue anything, the string or tie that I want to use to bind the book, or figure out how I want to bind the book. So this is going to be my front, which is super cute. It's got the little, and it's kind of bland enough that I can put my label on the front and the variety of other things. In your graphics pack, I included your dressmaker's dummies, which you can cut out and post on here. My goal with this was to create the dressmaker's dummy and then actually create a dress out of fabric, is what I was intending. But you can decorate this however suits you, right? So again, the point of this exercise was the threads of her life. So if you had you've got 12 scenes essentially that you could maybe add a photo of the person, which I think I'm going to end up doing in the front page here. I think I'm going to add like a photo of my mother and things of that nature. So it's up to you now to be able to decorate that, but I'll show you really quick how I add the tie in. I just need to figure out what ribbon I want to use for my tie. I'll probably do something in blue. So let me go look for that, and I'll be right back. Okay, I dug out a variety of different types of ribbon so you can kind of see what is possible. I have some that are just strips of fabric that you could tuck in here and tie around the outside and maybe do a bow. So if you wanted to do something like that, that would be really, really pretty. So essentially, you could not attach this in any way, shape, or form to the book itself and just make it into something that ties into a bow around the fabric, around the book. I had a variety of things both gauzy fabric ribbon that I was looking at, which I think is super cute, but probably too delicate. It doesn't really show up. I had found this the other day. I don't remember. It came off of something. This is really cool, and I thought that would be a lot of fun. And I like kind of the shininess of that ribbon. I also found this ribbon in my stash, which I thought was kind of cool because it has like an iridescent-y flow to it. I'm trying to think what is going to coordinate best with this particular design. I want something that kind of goes with it. You could pull a completely contrasting color. That's where something like a completely contrasting color would be something interesting. But I think for this one, just because I think it's probably going to work out best with the colors, is I'm going to use this iridescent ribbon. I think that is my best choice out of what I have. I have a variety of different types of ribbon, but I really think I like. You could also do lace if you've got lace, like a little piece of lace would be cute as a tie. That's actually super adorable, but I think I want to add lace elements into the book itself, so I'm not going to include that as my tie. Just a variety. I keep kind of a lot of things on hand. So yeah, I think I'm going to end up using this. I essentially want this to tuck into the back between some pages so it's good and secure. And then I'm going to have it wrap around a couple of times and then secured like that. So I want it to have at least a decent length where that's concerned. So I'm going to cut that off. And I'm going to set this aside and put all this back away. Okay, so essentially, and then I'm going to take this ribbon, as I mentioned, and I am going to secure it between the pages in the back so it can't go anywhere and it's forever attached to the book itself. And that way it doesn't get lost from the book and would be a part of it. Another thing that you could do, and I've done this with other ones, is if you want it to tie and you don't want it to end up lost, is you can actually attach it to the back panel through some belt loops on the back with paper, and then you just bring it to the front and give it a bow, which I am super fond of. So I might actually do that instead. I like the idea of I love putting a cute bow on the front of things. And I think that just looks really beautiful. So I think I'm going to do that rather than gluing this shut or tucking it in, is just do it this way with the bow. Because then I'm going to cut out my little label and add that to the top, and the little bow will sit down here. I might cut those a little shorter. I don't know. I could clip on a little clip-on earring on the center of the bow, something of that nature. So you could do that with the wraparound as well, clip-on, to clip it together, which would be super cute. Okay. So essentially, if you're going to do it at this point, this is where you want to glue this book shut, and you would include this on the inside, right? As you're gluing it shut, so it's you can see that good and stuck down on the inside. Okay, so we're going to adhere this thing together, and we're just going to go through and run a bead of glue around the edge to seal the two layers closed. Now, if you want your outside areas to be pockets at this point, or if you want your folded side to be the bottom and include pockets on the top so you could slide additional things in, you absolutely could do that. My numbers are going this direction, so I'm not going to be able to do that because my fold would have to be at the top, but that would be super cute, is to be able to put like tags and ephemera on the inside. And so I would just run a glue down each edge and create then the pockets to put stuff in. I may leave a pocket open or leave the front flap open so I can tuck something in the edge. So now unfold it, unfurl it here, and go through and run your bead of glue or whatnot that you need. I'm just going to run mine down the end, the edge, just to kind of hold this together. I don't need necessarily to put it on the inside, again, because I'm not expecting anything to be able to go anywhere. So I'm really just trying to seal my bottom edge. If you wanted this to be your top edge, I would run a bead of glue down each one of the valleys just to make sure that if you tuck something in it, it can't go flying off to one side. So I'm going to leave a little secret pocket in the very front that allows me to tuck something in. So I'm just going to do the front and the bottom really good. And that way, that front edge, you could tuck something in, which would be super cute. Maybe that's where I'll put the hidden photo, which would be fun. So you would pull out the photo. So I just left that open essentially. So now I have a little pocket there. Okay, so that is done. You're going to want to let the glue dry. And like I said, on mine, because I want to figure out some way to keep the ribbon with it at all times, I am going to add a little piece of, this is where having a little bit of extra of this comes in very, very handy. So now I can find just a little area of a little snippet off the edge. Actually, I think I'm going to take this edge. And I'm just going to cut about an inch off one end. And then I'm going to probably give myself 2-inch long strips. And essentially what I'm doing is I'm just creating a belt loop for that ribbon to stay with the journal on the back side. And you could do this with anything. It's just easier if you do it with what you already have. So you could do just one on there. I'm going to do two just because I think it works better with my design. So I'm just going to do like a little belly band here and just glue the two edges. Situate my ribbon. This will allow the ribbon also to slide. So if you decide later you want to change the ribbon to something else, I'm just going to eyeball kind of where the center is. My ribbon now can slide through here. So I could take my ribbon out later if I decide I don't like this ribbon and I want to change it out, as long as it all, whatever future ribbon I put in is the same size as that. So same on the other side. It just creates two little belt loops on the back. That will give me an eyeball where this needs to go and line her up appropriately. Yep. Okay, I'm gonna put that, because it doesn't want to sit still, I'm gonna put that under my handy dandy iron here, just to weight it down until it dries. It takes it a couple of seconds to dry. Save all your extra pieces, because these make great pockets, belly bands, and we just found a use for it right off the bat. If I decide I want a double ribbon, I still can add this in, which is kind of like why I like this particular style of creating the bands on the back, because if you change your mind on ribbon, you're not stuck with it. You can add additional ribbon to it. Okay, so there's my book, and now I have I just have to go through and decorate it. Okay, I've got all my pieces cut out, and now I'm going to start decorating. Okay, I'm going to leave this spot for a photo, and then I'm going to start actually adding my dressmaker's dummies. I just fussy cut all of my dressmaker busts. I'll start by gluing these all down in my book. And I need to make a decision at this point Do I want to do one on every page? Do I want to do a collection of them on every page? So essentially, as I am looking at my overall scheme here, do I want to do a big one on every page? You also have these little tiny ones that you could do a whole vignette with. They also could tuck into some of the pockets and things like that. So essentially, as part of my layout, do I want one on every page? Because again, I have the flip side as well. I think I want to do these every other page, and then on the back, then I have the ability to put them on every other page as well. So, and then on the in-between pages, I'm going to add maybe some pockets to include straight here. I also might cut out parts of this, fill this out, because again, this is part of your packet, the Threads of Her Life Challenge. You could even fill out these additional things and add them into each one of the various different sections and add it into your book as well, which I think would be really cute. Or these could become the tucks that tuck in the top if you left your top open. Or you could even take these and make them into an accordion in one spot. I mean, there's a variety, or flip. There's a variety of things that you could do with this as well. Let's get these stuck down first. Yeah, I put that on the wrong spot, but that's okay. Just gonna do every other. I should have put it on that panel. Not to worry. Okay, and then I'm gonna flip it over and put them on the back, obviously skipping my back cover. And put them on the back side also. I'm gonna Okay, let's flip this back over, and then we need to make a decision on what else we want to add in here. I do think I am going to cut these out and add them into my book. I'm just going to cut these out and add them into the book as well. I'm not sure where I want these, but I think I'm going to sprinkle them throughout. just kept that. I fussy cut this one out. I just kept the little tag that's on there, which is fun. I don't need the texture and elements. I do need this bottom corner. Okay, and obviously if there's any other little elements within this that you can cut out, use as much as you can, including that other little dressmaker's dummy in the top corner. Okay. I like that. That has a little date. You can add the little date on the back, which I think will be fun. I'm going to cut that out and take it with me too, because it's always good to date your stuff. Okay. I wish I had kept the little strip at the bottom that said create connect. It's okay. I like that little corner up there, but I think I'm also gonna take this little corner. It would be a really cute little card to tuck in somewhere in a pocket. So I think I'm gonna cut that out. I can make it into writing space on the back. Okay, so I like to salvage as much as I humanly can. This little heart that's on here is cute. I'll have to put it on the edge of something or tuck him in underneath something since it gets cut off. Okay, salvage that. What else? This little edge is another one I might be able to get a little tuck card out of. Trim that off. Oop, there's a button. I can take the button too. I could also use this little lace edge as washi. For sure want that button. Okay, got the button. It's a little spool of thread here. Cut out. Oh, nicked it. Use somewhere. Okay, I think I've salvaged everything out of there that I'm willing to salvage at this point. Okay, sounds good. So we can keep going with our a life is a straight seam. I like that little quote too. I think I'm going to cut it out. I should be a little bit more careful. The little quote is super cute. There's a little quote at the top that just says, a life is not a straight seam, it's stitched together over time, which I think is super cute. So I'm going to salvage that too. Okay. I've got all these components and pieces now that I can add in, as long as they're not wider than, oh, that just barely fits. Good. Okay. I think I'm going to add some of these. This is cute. I'm going to add that. I might make this little top part into a little tuck spot. I'm just going to go around the edge here and leave the top as a tuck spot. Make sure that I fit within my 4 inches. Actually, I need to scoot down a little. Okay. Stick that down. The top is a tuck spot, and I have room at the bottom. I could add in another little dress. I could add in another little area. Okay, her story. I think I'm going to add the her story 1 at the front and make it also into a little tuck. So again, I've just gone around the 3 edges, and I'm going to put this in at the very front. Unfortunately, I covered over my little birdie there, but that couldn't be helped. Her dress is a life. Okay, so I'm going to put this somewhere over here. I'm going to leave this. Again, all of these, I'm leaving them as a tuck, a little pocket, essentially just by going around the bottom, bottom sides and the bottom. So then I could put something potentially else in here. I'm not going to cover over my birdie this time in my design. So this now becomes a pocket. So if I wanted to include photographs of the person, that kind of thing, I could easily do that. I think it would be really funny to do, put a photograph of the person and then try to recreate their outfit on one of the dressmakers dummies, or what are these called? Not dressmaker dummies. There's another word for that. Okay, so that's that side. And then I'm going to flip her over here, and I have another spot. So a signature reflection. What part of her do I see in myself? This is not quite, it's going to be a tight fit. So I think I'm going to cut this down a little bit. Take that off. I'm going to have all these little parts and pieces too that we can add on. I just want to make sure that I get the major. I'm going to make this one into a tucka's pocket also. Go right above my butterfly there. Okay. That's on there. Okay. So then I can go back in with all of the little other doodads and things. Again, these became really great things that I can tuck in, right, to a variety of places, and add in writing space on the back side of these. So I will just go ahead and tuck those into a couple of locations. My glue is not stuck down all the way. I can also take some of these where I have extra space and create, this is pretty because that kind of matches, and make this into a little tiny pocket that I can put something in. Put this in the bottom corner down here. And then I can take these, there's a variety of little taggies and things, remember, mend, create. I can add these to a variety of areas. So even at the top of my dressmaker dummy pages, I can add those in. There's some little quotes. This one says, "She stitched her dreams into reality." This would be super cute on this page where it says in her life, if her life was an outfit. So I think I'm going to drop this down here. Let's see, keep going. Keep going. You're creating something beautiful. I think I'm going to put that on the back side. What does this one say? Every stitch tells a story. I'm going to put this at the very beginning to introduce the story element. I think I'm going to add that right there. I would try not to put anything on where your folds are at so it doesn't, become an issue. If it's not a straight seam, I think I'm going to put this right up here at the top. Keep enough stuff to do your other side. Stick that up here at the top. But you have plenty of elements to be able to fully, kit this out with a variety of things. And then I'm going to go in here and actually create little, put lace and things like that. So this is a fun area where you can take pieces of lace and actually make a little skirt for your, thing and all of that stuff out of a variety of fabric or scrapbook material and things. Or you could leave it plain. If you don't want to add the little dresses on there, you can leave it completely plain. That's okay too. I'm going to add my little sewing machine. I have a little spot here that I think it would be great for. That's a perfect little spot for that. Makes it look like sitting on the table. Probably should have kept the center of that out. That's okay. Let's add a little element to this one. Beautiful and in progress. Mend, create, become is cute, like that one. I'll drop that on there. I'm going to put my little blue thread. Where do I put my little blue thread? Maybe down here in the corner. Cute little element hanging out in the corner. Okay, I'm going to flip this over. On the back, since I kept the date, oh, there's little rulers too, which is super cute. There's a couple little rulers. Since I kept the date, I'm actually going to put the date on the back. The back on the bottom. So I can fill that out. And then I'm going to put made with love right above it. You don't feel like you have to use every one of these things. Her story matters. I believe everyone's story matters. Where do I want to put this? Can I add that right there? Could use some of these also as parts or elements within your dress dummies. Maybe I'll tuck another one of these little dressmaker dummies onto the back too, so the back is fully designed. I'll just slide it underneath my ribbon. So that's in the center of that. That's super cute. That's right underneath there. Uses up one of those. I like the word inspire. Oh, I like this there's a little picture. Let me set this aside for just a second. I'll grab that in a second. There's this little photograph of what looks like a mother and daughter together, which I think is super adorable. I'm going to lay that down first, and then I'm going to put the word inspire over it. Layer that on top. It's cute. Do I want to use any of these other pockets? Maybe I'll tuck another pocket in here. I like that one. So it's really your design to put things wherever it makes sense for you. I love the little tiny pockets where you could add all kinds of little folded up piece of papers with notes or memories that go with the prompts that are on here. I'm gonna drop the heart on top of the pocket. What do we have? Be brave. Be brave. Keep going. Be brave. Keep going. You're creating something beautiful. It's really kind of also a message to yourself to carry with you the memories of someone else's life and their impact to you, especially as a woman. The women who impacted you and made you who you are, all the generations that came before you, that molded you essentially. Okay, love this. Super cute. I think I want to put buttons and thimbles and scissors, and I'm going to put this little thing of thread on the front too. Just sitting right on top of my made with a heart. Just tuck that in like it's sitting on top of the tag there in the corner. Okay, that is super cute. Even if you did nothing else and left it at this point and maybe even gave it as a gift, because again, it has those super cute, maybe tuck in a couple of little pieces of paper. Some of these could just be folded up. Some of these pockets, you could just fold them up and tuck them into, or the other pockets. So they're kind of, might trim that down just slightly so it'll fit all the way in there and stick up over the top. So that one's super cute. You can tuck those in as additional space to write on the back inside of some of these. So I'm just going to tuck these in because I don't want to get rid of them. And maybe even tuck in one of my little things here. Do I want to use the heart? Probably not. I don't know that I need. Well, hold on. Oh, the little buttons are so cute, though. Maybe I'll put the little button on the front. A little paper button. Could use real buttons, too. You can get real creative. So I'm going to stick that little button there on the front. I don't know that I need any of the rest of these. They're super cute. Anyway, I think I'm done. I'm just going to go through here and make sure that everything is good and stuck down. Flip her back over and see if there's anything I need to add to this side. Again, I'm going to take some of these and tuck them in here. Just super adorable. Maybe this needs something. Beautiful in progress. Use up some of these so I don't have to throw them away. Put that there. Become, create, remember. Take the word remember. Put it at the front. Okay. I think that's all. I take this flower and put it somewhere. Maybe here. Yeah. Okay. Now the next part of this is personal to each one of you, so I won't record this because I want to sit here and actually fill this out the rest of the way to create something really beautiful and meaningful. But essentially, this is your book, right? So now we have a Threads of Her Life book completely done. Mine will, of course, tie around the front. It creates a little place for you to fill out and add in and tuck various different things. You can design dresses on top of the mannequins, fill out your little stuff here. And it's really a tribute to the story of the woman that you chose for your, even the back is beautiful, for your inspiration here. So I hope you enjoyed this process and the beautiful book that was created. This would be something really cute. You could also do this, create one of these and give them to a friend. Mother's Day is right around the corner. You could also do one and give it as a gift to your mother or a woman in your life as a tribute to her, which I think would also be really, really fun. So there it is. There you have it. A super beautiful gift. This would be a really great in lieu of a card, maybe. That would be super adorable. So I hope you enjoy. Thank you for following along.